Yeah, we just wanted to talk a little bit today about parenting in the digital age. And as a parent myself, I know that a lot of things have changed since I grew up. and and my kids have a lot more access to things that I didn't. And so just want to kind of talk through some of the ways that you can help make sure that your children are staying safe in the digital world, if you will. As well as how they can thrive and how that you can use technology to a benefit. And there's a lot of great things about it. So um, really, we're going to kind of break tonight's conversation up into three different sections. Kind of talking about why we need to be mindful of screens as parents. And just some information and statistics there. We're going to talk a little bit about how to just how to keep children safe and how to keep them thriving in a digital world, and give some tips and tricks there. And then finally just wrap up with how to use technology for learning and really use it to a positive extent. So and then we'll certainly have some time for questions at the end, but would really certainly love for this to be interactive. And if you have any questions, please feel free at any time to come off mute and interrupt me, and we can dive deeper into a certain topic and answer any questions that you may have. Um, so really, first off, just kind of, why do we need to be thinking about this? And really, it kind of comes down to just being mindful of kind of what's happening. And this was an interesting stat from it was through Common Sense Media, which if you haven't checked that out, it's just if you just Google Common Sense Media, you'll find it. And they have a lot of good resources around different movies and video games, and you can look up stuff and see kind of what information is in that game or in that movie, and et cetera. And the nice thing that I like about it is that it doesn't necessarily like it gives you what is actually in there and lets you make the decision whether you're okay with it or not for your children, because there are different maturity levels obviously at different ages. But anyways, so children 8 and younger right now are spending almost 2.5 hours of their day on a screen of some sort. A lot of this is through TV and video, but there are other avenues as well, gaming and even homework and video chatting and things of that nature. So, it is, it's a significant part of a child's life, is spent in front of a screen, and making sure that we're optimizing that time can be important. And really, the other thing that we look at is, you know, the technology itself. So, unfortunately, a lot of the technology platforms, particularly social media in general, which includes, Facebook and YouTube. And sorry, my lights apparently turned off here, but we're going to fix that. um, hold on just one second.
Bean's coming to us from the dark. He decided to go no tech on us right now.
Yeah, apparently that was
Or
weird.
technology failed us because you weren't moving enough. Your lights went off, right?
I think so. Yeah, I wasn't moving enough. um, so anyway, but social media platforms, they're built around wanting to keep us engaged. They want to be able to make sure that we're staying on there as long as possible, whether it's an adult or a kid, it doesn't matter. Because really, the way that they make money is through advertising, and the more you stay on their platform, the more ads they can show you, and the more money they can make. And so, their algorithms are really built for retention. And so they want to continue showing you more of things that they think you're going to like. And so it does become almost addictive. There is an addictive property to it, and it becomes a point where you continue to stay on these platforms to be able to see more. Um, and unfortunately, even as parents, we don't know what all is available online. I know we don't have TV. We don't have actual over-the-air TV or cable subscription. I watch a lot of YouTube myself, and quite honestly, I find myself every week finding new stuff that is like, I didn't even know this was a thing. There's new stuff that's, videos and challenges and things like that that are getting posted online that, as parents, we may not even know about. And children are hearing about this and finding it either proactively or just through the algorithms, unfortunately younger and younger. And so it's good to just kind of make sure that we're aware of what's being posted and what's out there. And we also, want to, it's not all bad. Technology starts off as a really great tool, and it really can stay that way. But as long as, we just put some parameters as parents, and we know what's happening, and we're involved in the process itself. So, but there are a lot of great ways to use technology, and Rajesh is gonna talk about those as well here in a second. So then when we start to look at ways to keep kids safe, there's some things that you would want to think about when you're using technology. First off, is just kind of thinking about what we're actually sharing. And unfortunately, when we get caught up in the moment of sharing, we get so excited about that post, right? There's the great photo of your child or your family, or you're just experiencing something really fun that you want to share with people. So that's that dopamine hit that we get, right? We get all excited about it, and we want to share that. What we oftentimes don't think about, though, is like, what is that giving other people? What information can they glean from that? And some things that you want to be thinking about is, you know, y- I would usually suggest you never want to share about places where you are or places where you're going. You always want to share about places that you've been. So if you're going on vacation, wait until you get back home to share those photos, if you share at all. And so that way, because otherwise you're telling people you're not at home, right? Or you're telling people I'm right here. If they, if it's at a real time situation. Um, so you generally want to be posting about things that have happened in the past. The other thing is kind of being mindful of using names. And so, if somebody has, have they're friends with you online, they know your last name generally. If you're posting your kids' names, then they know that information as well. Um, and so you just want to be careful of using full names and using names when you're posting about children.
One of the things that I do personally is I just use a first initial. And, and again, everyone who knows me, who would know about my family, would then know that, this is who I'm talking about. And I think the other thing is to really think through, and I think a lot of us are doing that, is who we're sharing with, like who is in our world. There was a time in which we were all, again, really excited about this, and you know, decided to stay connected with the person that we met in a summer camp when we were in our third year of college, versus I feel like now a lot of us are getting a little more refined so that we can use social media a little bit more freely, but really limiting it to who we have in our circle and who we're sharing stuff with. So if you haven't, at some point, it's worth going through your contacts to see, to just kind of do the gut check. Like, do I know this person? Do I want to keep sharing with this person? Or, making sure that the level you're sharing with matches the people in your who are seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good points. And really, most platforms now will give you the ability to choose who you want to share with. And by default, it's very wide, right? It's the most open, and anybody that you're connected to, or anybody that's connected to somebody that's connected to you, can see that information. But you actually have the control, within your settings, to go in and fine tune that and change that. And even many times with each post, you can choose who can see this post and who can't. And so, it's good to, especially when you're sharing very personal information, to be able to set that information, and control who can actually see that content. The other thing that you want to do is, or another way that you can help with, just kind of the mindfulness screen watching, if you will, is turn off the autoplay. So YouTube and Facebook and a lot of these platforms, once a video is done, they go on to the next video, and it automatically starts playing the next one that it thinks is going to be most relevant for you. And that can lead down a rabbit hole, and each time, while there is some relevancy, it can get further and further and further from the core initial video that you watched. And sometimes it can get further and further and further away from the values that you as a family hold for video and what you consume and media and things of that nature. So turning off that autoplay stops that. It stops it from automatically going on to the next video, which means that everything that you watch, you at least have to make a decision, a conscious decision to say, yes, I want to watch this video.
One of the things I've seen this happen with a lot of the kids' videos is there's sort of, to me, a difference between like a cartoon, Peppa Pig or something along those lines, and some of the content that's sort of done by real people and families, which again, oftentimes don't necessarily promote the values that I really want for my girls. And I have seen that it very quickly goes from one to the other. So we may have started with the Peppa Pig video, and within 5 minutes, I'm hearing that toy guy, I forget his name now, Kyle or whatever his name is, like talking about the latest toys and what you should make your mom buy you from Target. And so actually until I didn't actually know how to stop that from happening until Dean and I talked about this particular session. And I realized that that's happening because we have autoplay on. So let's turn that off. And now I'm teaching the girls that if you're going to have the phone or if you're going to be watching something, we're doing cartoons only, because those are the ones that come up are a little bit more controllable and manageable for me.
Yeah. And the other thing that you can do is you can set up specific accounts. So, if you frequent YouTube and you watch stuff on there, if you use the same account, so if you are signed into your account on your Apple TV or whatever the case may be, the videos that it suggests are partly going to be based on your previous watch history, right? And so if you happen to watch a clip from Saturday Night Live that may be okay for you as an adult, but wouldn't be acceptable for a child, obviously, um, that content is going to play into the algorithm as far as what they suggest for you to watch. Whereas if you were to have a separate account for your kids, or maybe it's a family account that you just use on Apple TV and throughout the house or something like that, then it becomes much more controlled, because now the suggested videos are only based off of the content that's watched under that account. So something like that, where you might have a separate account for your phone and your computer and your tablet or whatever devices you use specifically, but then would have a separate kids or family account as well. You can also control your play history as well too. So let's say you even do that, and you and your significant other are watching TV, and you do watch a Saturday Night Live clip or whatever, just playing with that. You can go in and remove that then, though, and that removes it from the suggestion. So if you remove that from your history, that takes that out of the algorithm component, and doesn't factor into it. So you can manage it that way too. The other thing that I think a lot of us don't think about is that we all have a smartphone in our pocket, and we're all taking photos many times a day probably, and we've gotten to a point where we share those photos pretty freely. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know is that when you take a photo, particularly with a phone, but it can be in some just regular digital cameras as well, there's data that's embedded into that photo, and that data can be very easily viewed. And so I actually have an example. So this is a photo, I should say, that I took. So I just emailed it to myself. This is our office. As mentioned, I'm with 360 Interactive. We have this little graffiti wall in our office that just kind of has our name. And so I actually just this afternoon, I snapped a picture in our office and I emailed it to myself. Very, very simple, right? Seems pretty harmless. However, if I just go ahead and save this photo, there's websites, there's hidden data in that photo, and it's called EXIF. So if I just search EXIF, here we go, data viewer. So here's a website to view that data. And so what I'm going to do is I just saved that photo. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to grab that photo, and I'm going to upload that. And what that's going to do then is going to take that photo, upload it, and then give me any data that it knows about that photo within that. So within here, you can see here's that photo. So it's the same exact file. So it tells you a file name and size and all that stuff that, like, okay, yeah, whatever. So then we get down into here. So we've got, Apple iPhone 13 shutter speed, kind of like a little bit more, but yeah, whatever. But then you get down here and now you got GPS data. And now it's giving you the actual longitude and latitude of where that photo was taken. So now if I just take this and I go to maps and I just put this in there. And so let's just copy these two numbers and we'll paste that in there. And I know you may not know, but my office is in downtown Flint. And this shows you exactly, my office is inside the Capitol Theater. And here's the Capitol Theater. It's literally right here. If we turn on satellite here, you can see this is the building, and that's literally the building that I'm in. And this actually is where our office was. That's where I was standing. So not only does it get down to the address, like it shows you like the exact spot I was standing when I took that photo. Um, and so, with that data, then this is just emailing that photo. All I did was just email it. Now, some of them, like Facebook, if you post a photo, they do strip out this data. So, if somebody posts photos to Facebook and then someone else were to save them, that this data is stripped out. Now, you are giving this data to Facebook, right? They know that information. They know where that photo was taken. But other sites aren't that way. There's sites that you can post to or you're sharing through, Messenger, if you're sharing through WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, or you are emailing or texting or anything like that, this data all stays embedded within that file and is always available. So again, just another component that we want to think about when we're starting to share data. Now are ways to be able to turn this off. And so like on iPhone, when you go to click on share a photo, at the very top, you'll see an options button. If you click on options, there will be the option for location and you can turn that off. So you can set this up so that it doesn't actually share that, but unfortunately you have to proactively do that. So I don't know if this will work, but I'm gonna go ahead and, so you can see I've got an iPhone here. If I go ahead and hit share, you may notice up here there's an options button. If you click that options button, you'll see you can turn location off, but by default it's turned on. So that's a way that if you want to go ahead and email photos or share it or post it wherever, that's a way that you can turn that off. The other option is to um, not give your camera access to your location, and at that point then it won't embed it ever from the beginning. That's another option. But that does make it so that if you use, any one of these services that allow you to see what photos have I taken at this place, you've probably seen that Google Photos, and a lot of them will do this, where you can say what photos were taken here. Um, that's how they get this information. But if you turn that off on your camera, you won't have access to that info either. So just know that, I guess. Gonna jump back in here.
Well, sometimes it's hard to think through whether something that's like a nice convenient feature, like knowing what pictures I've taken here, or wow, I came here when my older daughter was 2 and I'm bringing my other one back. I'd love to pull the picture up because we're in the same spot. Nice convenience also kind of makes us slightly vulnerable, and shares information that we may or may not really care to share.
It really does. Yeah. That's the unfortunate part of technology is, you can lock down your device, but it removes a lot of the conveniences. It really does. And so, it's about finding the right balance for you and your family, and determining what's right for what it is that you value. But I think that's also a good segue. There are a lot of really good ways to use technology. There's a lot of my daughter. So my daughter is 9. She really enjoys digital art, and she loves, on her iPad. She has an app called Procreate and loves to do art on the iPad. Um, and she really likes that. There's also, there's online classes, and she uses Skillshare to learn about it and things of that nature. So there can be really good ways that you can use your technology, Rajeshi, if you want to go to, oh, I forgot. I did have one other thing. I'll wait. I'll kick it to you in a second. But I think the other thing also to keeping kids safe is also just kind of engaging with them and talking about their usage. Continue with that example. I come home every day from work and my daughter's excited to be able to show me the pictures that she drew, right? And what she learned on Procreate and things of that nature. And so I think it's really good to, kind of, talk with them about it and just engage and use it as an opportunity to connect with your children and learn about what they're doing and ask them, what are your favorite YouTubers and who do you like to watch and what topics are you learning about and things of that nature. Because I think all of us as parents, we know when our child is making something up, right? And if they're watching things that they don't want us to know, they're going to start doing that. So it's a good way to be able to kind of embed yourself in their world and learn more about it and be deliberate about when screens can be used, where they can be used. Is it a reward system? Is it a something that they get a certain amount of time? Are they only able to use it when a parent's in the room or not? Some of those things are all things that as a family you can decide what's right for you, and at least that way it's you're making a mindful, conscious decision about how you're using technology. So, but now I'll toss it over. Go
Yeah, I
ahead.
was gonna say, and what's interesting about that, because all of our students are young, so they're sort of not YouTubers on their own yet, although I will say my little one knows how to use it because she has an older sibling. And so that's another thing to consider as you're growing your families. The way that you're able to control things with your older one changes drastically with your second one because you now have your older one who's way further advanced. And for whatever reason, it's not like my younger one started doing, eating her food properly on her own or putting her clothes away earlier on her own. But man, when it came to the technology, she was ready to be an advanced student on it by watching her sister. So that's another thing to sort of think about is how you manage it with multiple children, and making sure that content is appropriate for the children, depending, on who they are. And there are some things that are good for all, depending on the ages, but it's also something to think about because as we get into this next section, technology isn't all bad either. I spent a good bit of my career helping to launch digital content for schools and really sort of helping to create, online classes and hybrid teaching experience and learning experiences well before the pandemic and well before it was mainstream. Because I can see the value and the potential in using technology in effective ways. The same thing is true for young children. There are definitely ways to use it effectively. And it's not always just using the screen, sometimes the sound. If you come through our classrooms, you'll hear sleep music being played through our tablets. It's the technology of being able to pinpoint exactly what we want when we want it, but not necessarily using the screen portion of it. Similarly, there are things that are interesting for kids to see and watch and to hear, right? If you're teaching young kids a foreign language, as an example, I don't speak Chinese, but there is a way that I could use technology in combination with other things to help my children hear it and learn it. So there are lots of different ways that we can use technology to enhance our kids' lives. So it's not all bad. It's just a matter of being very mindful of how we're using it and how much time we're using it for and for what purpose. I think it's great when kids see us have a question or say, gosh, I don't know how to do this. Let me YouTube it real fast, because it teaches them that we can always find an answer to something. There are ways to do things independently, and we're never too old to learn. So those are all very positive messages we can share with our kids. And it's okay to ask for help, right? It's another one. It's very positive messages we can send our kids. We just have to make sure that we're not using technology to babysit. We're not letting them swirl down the wormhole of whatever, algorithm it has caught on to their likes and dislikes, or even scarier is shaping their likes and dislikes. That's the part that worries me also, because at this young age, I'm not really sure who's driving the car, if it's their interest that's driving what they're seeing, or if what they're seeing is driving their interest. And I want to make sure that they sort of stay independent of that. So, but like I said, technology is not all bad. And there are ways to use it for creative outlets. Dean described his daughter using it, but I've watched my kids. There's music creation programs. And so, if you don't have access to a piano, or you want to do something recorded and hear it again and keep, learning to play it. I've watched my older daughter do that with something on the computer, and then she just replays it and practices it on her, whether it's her piano or her violin. Her teacher has them record them playing their violin and then watch it for their own feedback. Really, really effective ways to use technology to get better at something or to be creative, but in moderation. I am an avid social media user, not necessarily for sharing or the meals of the day or my vacation pictures, but I use it for interest groups. So if there's something I want to know more about or learn more about or connect with people on a shared interest, I find them. And I do find myself getting into a lot of parenting groups for different purposes. I run a couple of them myself. But things that I'm interested in, especially when it comes to my kids, it's a great place to look for support. There is a grain of salt you have to take, because you have to remember, if you're looking for medical advice, that's not the best place to go to figure out if you're to make a diagnosis for a rash or something, which I see all the time. But if you're looking for, hey, I've got, a 2-year-old, I live in this area, other people who live in this area, what are some great parks we can go to? Or, I have a 7-year-old and I'm noticing this is happening at school. Anyone else experienced this before? Really great ways to get support for parents, to get help for common questions. Of course, as your school, we want to be your first stop for any questions that you have. But I may even say, hey, let's get on one of these parenting groups and just kind of check it out and see if there's any other advice people have. And it's also a great way to connect socially, because we're all very busy. We have our children that take up, the priority of our time. It's not always possible for us to get that time to meet with people one-on-one, or, but it's a nice way to be able to stay connected to others that we have shared interests with. And that's a really important thing as a parent, to be able to keep ourselves nurtured and taken care of. This is one way that we can do that. It doesn't replace going and being in person, but it certainly can be a way to feel like you're not all alone, right? When your child is screaming and going to bed and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm the worst parent in the world. Not that I've ever done that, maybe tonight. And you sort of connect with someone, connect with some parents online who say, oh, no, I just did that last week. This is what I tried. This is what I did. There's some semblance of feeling some comfort in knowing that there are others out there in your same situation. Your neighbors may not have kids exactly the same age, and your family may not have kids exactly the same age, but the nice thing is you can find people out there to connect with. And again, as long as it's in a healthy, positive way and in a way that's appropriate for social media, it can be a very nice resource to have as a parent as well. So to that end, as you all know, we use technology at our school in multiple ways. We don't really use it much in the classroom. Technology doesn't have a huge spot in Montessori traditionally. I think as we modernize and we sort of apply Montessori techniques into the new world, if Dr. Montessori were still alive and designing things, she probably would find a way to use technology in moderation, because there's, again, as we talked about, so many tools that can help kids help themselves, which is such a big part of what we do. So we are also looking for ways that make sense for children to use technology. At this age, under 2-3 years old, there's not a lot we want to do in school, also because we know that parents are using it at home. When we think about the percentage of their day that they're on a screen, we really would prefer to not add to that at this point in time. But as they get older, and as they start studying things to a greater degree, and honestly, as they start reading independently, there is more of a space for technology to be a part of their education. And we're looking forward to adding that as part of their experience, and learning with them the best ways that they can use technology as a tool, still enjoy it, but not become everything that they do. Our children are digital natives. They have grown up with this. Many of us are not digital natives. While it may have come to us at a young age, it wasn't something we had from day one. So their sort of use and feel of technology is slightly different than ours, as we've learned it, whether we were young adults, older adults, whatever it might be. So there's a sort of need that they have, an opportunity that we have to help them use these tools in a way that can really benefit them. And so we're really looking forward to doing that with our students and helping them learn how to use technology responsibly at a young age, so that maybe some of the issues that our generations right now are facing maybe start to go away, or they're in moderation, because the kids are learning from a young age how to do this and how to do this the right way. So it's exciting stuff that we have going on. Happy that you were all able to join us today. Very thankful to Dean for sharing his expertise, and looking forward to our next session. Dean, anything else to add?
No, I think that was it.
All right, well, wonderful. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. We will look forward to seeing you, and enjoy spring break. We'll see you soon.